Uh, Hi guys, I hope you can all hear me. Am I audible enough?
Yes, Benjamin.
Okay, so today we'll just be going back to CSS and just finishing a couple of things that we have not done, and also we'll just be recapping on a few things that we did last week that we didn't cover in depth. So last week we just did a simple introduction to CSS. And we talked about what CSS is and how we can be able to implement CSS. So we'll just be revising what we went through and just add a few things to what you learned last time. So basically, today we have 3 lesson objectives that we intend to achieve by the end of this lesson. And the first one, we just want to do a small introduction to, we've already done this, but we're just recapping on what we've done, just to ensure that we deepen our understanding on CSS. So we are just doing a small introduction to CSS and how we can be able to apply CSS to our HTML documents, which we've done a couple of times, but we'll just do it again. The second thing that you're going to look at is what we did last time to refresh in our memory. Basically, the basic CSS syntax and selectors in CSS and HTML. Then the third thing that you're going to do by the end of the class is CSS properties. So we'll just start with the introduction to CSS. For those who are new to CSS or didn't understand last week's lesson. So CSS, we say that in full, it's cascading style sheets, which is a styling language. We say that we have different types of languages. For example, we say that HTML is a markup language, and it's used to give our pages structure and to ensure that we have a good layout for our pages. But we say that HTML cannot be able to work alone because HTML is very plain in terms of appearance. So that's where CSS usually comes in. And CSS now is a styling language, which is basically used to style our HTML documents to ensure that we have visually appealing websites and web applications. So CSS is used to control the appearance of the web page, the layout of the web page, and it allows developers to. So another thing that CSS does, it allows us to separate our content. You can be able to have separate HTML and CSS, so it makes your code easier to write and your code easier to build in such a way that for the HTML file, you will just concentrate on the structure and the layout. Now on the CSS file, we'll purely just do styling, so it helps us to have a clean project and a well-structured project. So what are the importances of CSS? I think we had covered this in the very first lesson that we did when we started the introduction to HTML. And we said the first thing that CSS does, it enhances our web design. So basically, it helps us to have visually appealing websites and web applications. CSS has different properties that we can use to style our HTML documents. For example, we can be able to manipulate the colors to our liking. We can be able to manipulate the fonts. So we can be able to change, let's say, the font size, the styles of the fonts. We can be able to change the appearance of how texts and paragraphs usually appear once we render our websites. We can be able to manipulate the spacing. We can be able to manipulate the layouts, how we want each and every element in our HTML file to look once we start rendering it. The second thing that another importance of CSS is it helps us to improve the user interface. As we have said, HTML is very plain on its own. So CSS usually just ensures that we have a visually appealing system, and it improves on the look and feel of the websites. The third importance is it separates the content from the design. So what does that mean? As we've said, you can be able to have different HTML pages, which basically focuses on the content of your web page. Then you can be able to style them separately, which we'll look at that very shortly. Then another importance, we have more than this, but for now we'll just look at these four reasons why we need to use CSS. It helps our website to adapt to different screen sizes. So you can be able to create a website that will be able to adapt to different screen sizes. When someone is viewing your website or your web application using, let's say, a laptop, maybe there's another person who's viewing your website using a tablet, another one is viewing using their phones. So it helps us with the responsiveness in such a way that each and everyone, these three people, will be able to have the same website, but in different screen resolutions, and it will still look appealing, and everything will be structured well. So that's another importance of CSS. I hope up to there it's clear. Any questions up to there? Okay, so because of time, because of the presentation, I just pre-written the code that you're going to work with today, because this is something that we've done over and over. So I'm sure most of us understand writing HTML documents. So I didn't want to write it from scratch, so I had prepared this. So this is a simple, you remember last time we did a bakery website, just a simple website for learning purposes. So I've just built on it, and I added a few things to it. So this is a normal HTML file. And we are going to look at the various ways that we can be able to apply CSS to our documents. So this is a normal HTML file. You can create any HTML file that you desire. For example, I can come here and say, let's say about us.html. So I just generate the boilerplate. So this is a HTML file, this is a HTML file. So a file like this, there are various ways that you can be able to add your CSS to your HTML. So we have three main ways that you can be able to apply your CSS to your HTML documents or files. The first one is known as inline CSS. The second way that you can be able to add or apply our CSS is known as internal CSS, and the third one is known as external CSS. So the first two options are acceptable options that we have to be able to work with CSS, but it's usually recommended for us to use the third option, which is external CSS. So let's look at the first two, then we go to the last one. We have created a new page, a new file, sorry, a new HTML file. So we can just change the title and say Seat Bakeries. So this is the title of our web page, and we say about us. So the first way that you can be able to add our CSS styling to our HTML document, it's this one that we are saying. inline CSS. So what is inline CSS? We had talked about elements, and we said we have different types of elements. For example, this is a heading element h1, and let's give it a name, Sweet Bakeries. This is another element to add long form text, which P is a P tag, which stands for paragraph. So we can be able to add, I want to add 50 words. So we can be able to maybe have an image over here. For now, I'll just leave it empty. We can be able to have an anchor tag, which is used to create links. We can be able to have a list of items. So for now, let me just use this to explain how inline CSS works. So inline CSS, basically what that means, you are styling your elements within the line, okay? So this is what I mean. If I want to style this heading, let me run this. So this is the about us HTML file that we've been able to create. We have a title here, we have a small paragraph over here, and we have an image over here that's at the moment it's empty. So for us to be able, let's say we want to manipulate this h1 element, for us to be able to use inline CSS, what we just need to do, we come to the elements, whether it's a heading element, a paragraph, a list element, and just after the opening tag of the elements, just after the opening tag of the element, that's where we will put our CSS styling. So we'll just come and say style, then we style with whatever we want to style. So we can come and let's say we want the color of our element to be, let's say, green. So you can see the color has changed. Let's say we want, what else can we be able to do? We want the font style to be italic. So you can see it has changed. So this is what we refer to as an inline CSS styling, where you can style elements individually inside the tags that or inside the elements that you want to style. For example, if you want to style this paragraph tag or paragraph element, we can also come, maybe we want to change also the color. We can come and first of all, so this is the syntax of if you want to do inline CSS. You you first of all start with the style, which indicates that you are about to style this HTML element. Then this assignment operator, then quotation marks. So we have two properties. We have two values over here. The first one is known as a property. So a property, we have different types of properties. You can have the color, we'll be covering that just in a few minutes. You can have the color, you can have the font style, you can have how you want to display, let's say, your element. So this is usually on the left side. Then on the right side is usually the value that you want to assign. Maybe for us, we have this property known as color. The value that you want to assign is green, so that the title will be green. The same concept applies here. We can come and say maybe we want again the color to be red. And what else can we be able to do? Also, we can come and change the font size. Let's say we want to put it at 30 pixels. 30 pixels. So you can see the font size has changed. If we add the font size 200 pixels, it will become bigger. If we can reduce it to 20 pixels. So you can be able to manipulate your HTML document as much as you want. So that one is known as inline styling. The second one is known as internal styling or internal CSS. What this means, I'll come and just remove this styling. So what this means, we can be able to style. We are talking about this internal CSS. We can be able to style our HTML document within the HTML document. And how you can be able to achieve that, we said we have sections in our HTML page. We have the head section, which contains our metadata, which is not visible to the user. Then we have the body section, which contains the main content, which usually appears here on the white space. So to be able to style that using internal CSS, all you need to do is come and write the CSS tag, the style tag, sorry. Then inside the style tag, you can be able to style this HTML document as much as you want. For example, you can say we want the body to have a background color of blue. So when we come back to our code, you can see the background color has changed. Let me just put it side by side so that at least as I'm doing it, we can see. We can come and say maybe we want the text for our HTML document to be white. So you can just come and say white, and you can see the text has changed. We can come and say that we want to have a margin, and we said that the margin is the space around our elements. So we can come and say we want our margin to be 30 pixels. You see how it comes out. So you can see the space. This was before. Let me just remove it. You see, I'm sure you can notice the difference. The space around our elements has changed. Maybe we can come and do a few other things. I can come and style maybe this element, H1 element. So I just come and pick it, and I want to change the font style to italic. So you can see it's now in italic. I can come and maybe I want it to be in lowercase letters or small letters. I can come and transform the text. So you can see it has changed to small letters. So we can be able to manipulate this document as much as we want. And those are the two ways in which you can be able to style your HTML document within the HTML file. But we usually have limitations with this. The first one is, you remember the first one, for example, if you come and say style and we want to style the color to white. So what this means, it's this styling can only be used within this element alone, not anywhere else, not in any other HTML file. Sorry, there's a spelling mistake. The same way, even if we use inline CSS over here, it will only apply to this HTML file alone. So for example, you can see we have two files over here. I can just come and even create a third one. I can say contacts.html. You'll notice that, as I was saying, so this styling will only apply to this about us alone. It will not apply to these two others. So it makes our work repetitive, because now we'll have to style each and every element individually. And at times that is not very optimal for large systems. So as your website is growing, it might not be the most practical way to style your HTML document. So that leads us to our the third way that you can be able to style your HTML document, which is basically external CSS. So how does that work? It works by us creating a separate CSS file purely for styling and linking it to our HTML page. So this is what we mean when we say external CSS. The first thing that you need to do is create your HTML file. So we've created let's say a new file, contact.html, and for now we'll just leave it that way. Now we want to be able to link this page to our CSS file. So how you can be able to do that is using an external link. And how you can be able to link your contact page to your HTML, your HTML page to your CSS file, it's inside the head section over here. So what you need to do, just below the title, you just come and add the link. So the link tag, which is usually used to link to external resources. So as I had said last week, so this one indicates that this is a style sheet which is used to style our HTML document. So it's a file that will be used to style our HTML document. So that's what style sheet refers to. Then we are referring to the CSS file. Now there's something that I just need to clarify over here. After that, you need to come and create your CSS file. And we said how you can be able to create your CSS file is the same way we usually create our HTML or our Python files using the extensions. That's the same way you create your CSS file. You can give it any name that you feel. We can say maybe seats.css, and that way we are able to create it. If you want to know whether it has been created successfully, we usually have this hash icon that you can be able to just know whether you created your CSS successfully. It is not a must, but I usually find it's a very good practice that you put your CSS files inside a folder that is separate, so that as your project is growing, you have a clean code and you have a clean project that you can be able to access things easily. So this is our Explorer tab, which shows our project structure. So if we are developing a full application, maybe by the time we are developing everything, we can end up having even 300 files over here. So to make sure that everything is accessible and it's within reach and your project is clean, I I think I'd recommend you create a folder so that you can be able to store your CSS files. So how you do that, you can just come to your project folder over here and you add a folder. So I'd already done that. And after you've done that, you put your CSS files inside that folder. So that means that you will have a clean project. So let me just move this here that way. So anytime I want to access any CSS file, I'll just be referring to this folder under the CSS file. The same way, if you want to add images to your project, it's usually a good practice to create a folder specifically that deals with images that you can be able to store your images in. Any questions up to there? Any questions? Okay, so let's continue. So we had said that this is the way that you usually attach your CSS file to your HTML file. So that as you will be working on your HTML documents, your CSS, whatever styling features that you've been able to add will be able to apply to your CSS document. So to your HTML document. So how you do that, you just reference the location of your CSS file. So for example, here, our location is, it is in this folder known as CSS. Then you just put that slash. Then maybe I want to use this new one that you've just created. So you reference the name of the CSS file that you want to use. So that's how you do it. So it's hit.css. If I come and run this, at the moment it's blank. At the moment it's blank because we've not added anything, but you can just come maybe modify the body. Maybe we want to change the body back to blue. So we've changed the background color to blue. We can come and maybe manipulate it as much as we want. Maybe we want to change it to green, maybe red. So this is known as external CSS, which basically means you're creating an external file that you can be able to reference within your HTML documents so that it can be able to handle we've been able to see how inline CSS is applied. And we've said that it's written within the HTML tag or the HTML attribute. Then we've said that with inline CSS, and when we say inline CSS, this is what we are. When we say inline CSS, you can see on line 22, this is what we are referring to. Styling the elements independently. And we've said that it's a quick way of styling, but it's not recommended because you can only style one element at a time, and the styling will only function in that specific element, that specific HTML element. The second way we've said is external CSS, which basically is what we've been able to do over here. You can come and just use these styling tags within the HTML, the head elements, the head section, sorry, and you can be able to style your HTML document as much as you want. The third way that you can be able to do it is external CSS, which I've just explained. So let us now look at the syntax of creating CSS, styling our CSS, our HTML, sorry, in CSS. So what is a syntax? A syntax is, if I can just explain it in simple terms, it's like a formula towards achieving something, or the structure that has been created for you to be able to write a certain thing. For example, in Python, you usually say that if you want to create a variable, the first thing you start with is the variable name, then the assignment operator. Then on the right side, you give it the data value that you want to give it. Same thing usually applies here. So let me just show you the syntax. So this is the syntax of creating a CSS this is a syntax that you use when you're creating your CSS styling. So you first of all start with the selector, then inside, then curly braces, then the property and the value. So what do I mean by the selector? We have different types of selectors. So we have elements, HTML elements. For example, H1. Let me just, for example, this one is a HTML element, which is used for headings. This one is an element. Maybe we can use lists. We can be able to use anchor tags. We can be able to add images. As Bobby had said, we have around 140 elements in HTML. So this is what we refer to as elements or selectors. So it's one way you can be able to do that. The second way, you can be able to use attributes to style your CSS, and also that those ones are known as selectors. So for example, you can be able to use the div, which is basically used to it's basically used to segment your code or to give your HTML sections. You can be able to use section attributes. So there are many of them that you can be able to use. The third type of selector is known as a class selector. So maybe I'll just the third one is known as a class selector. So I'll go back to the code that I had prepared before, which is this one. So when we refer to a class selector, what we mean basically is our HTML elements, like for example, these ones that we've just created over here, we can be able to give them names. We can be able to classify them in classes and give them names so that the names that we've given them, we can be able to use them in CSS to style our elements. So we'll just be doing that in a short while. The other way, so that I don't confuse you, let's just do it practically. So this is a simple simple code to just display a web page for a bakery that it's an imaginary bakery that I just created. So let me just run it. First of all, we see how everything looks. So this is a bakery with just a few items that we have, and we've already styled it. The regular HTML lines of code. So this is the heading, this is the title, and the title is what usually appears over here on top. Then we have the head section, and we say that the main body is divided into three. the head section, which contains the navigation bar and the navigation links. Then we have the main content, and we have the footer content. So this one, basically here we've created the navigation, and we have 3 sections in our navigation. Let me put them side by side so that you can be able to see. So we have 3 sections in our navigation. We have this logo that's we've positioned it to the left of our navigation. We have these navigation links that we've positioned them in the center. And finally, we have this button to buy a cake that we've positioned it to the right. After that, we have a small hero section over here, which is just below the navigation. And the hero section has a few elements, HTML elements. We have a heading, which is freshly baked just for you. Then we have a small paragraph, which is a HTML element again. And we've put them inside a div tag. And we've said that the div is an attribute that is used to segment our code, it's used to segment our websites in such a way that we can have sections. So for example, you can see this freshly baked just for you is a heading, and we have a small paragraph. So we've been able to categorize them into a div, which basically is one segment of this hero section that appears on the left side of the screen. Then we have another segment that's based on the right side of the screen that has this image. Then, so all this, we've also segmented them. So this one is just to give our HTML document structure. We've segmented it in this hero section. So it's, let me just remove it, you see. So it's so it's what appears here. Then below us we have an about us section, which has a background color that almost looks brownish, an image and a text and a small paragraph. We have another one over here which has the categories of the cakes that you're selling, and we have a small footer section just below here with a few things that we've added. Now we want to look at how we can be able to, we want to look at the syntax of CSS. How do you create your CSS elements? The first thing that you do, you need to put your selector. It's usually very straightforward, unlike HTML. The first thing you need to do is just put your selector. Then curly braces. Then curly braces. Then inside this selector over here, inside this select over here, on the left side, you need to put the property that you'll be working on. Then on the right side, you put the value that you want to style. So this is just the basic syntax of creating a HTML, of styling your HTML elements. So how do you do that? For example, we go back to our code over here, or let me use this. If I want to style this HTML tag over this HTML element over here, all I need to do is come and pick the name of the HTML element, which is h1, and I come and so that will be our selector, and I come and I paste it here. Then curly braces, Then the property that I want to style the color, and the value that you want to put, I want to style it to aquamarine. So that's how you do it. If I want to add, then always remember to put this semicolon. After that, I can come and add another property, maybe the font size. And maybe I can say 12 pixels. I can come and say maybe I want to transform this text to uppercase. So I can style this H1 element as much as I want. So basically, this is the syntax that you just follow. First of all, you put the selector, the curly braces, then inside the curly braces, the property on the left side that you want to style, then the value that you want to add to that property. I hope that is clear. Any questions? So there are various ways of creating our HTML selectors, which we are going to look at in the next few minutes. So we have the first one is known as a universal selector. What does a universal selector do? It targets all the elements on the page. So what we mean by that is, if I come back to this this about page that I had created, and I just remove this. So I want to use external CSS to style this. So I'll just come and say link. Then I put the path to accessing our CSS. So I want to use it. So if I come and put this, I don't know, I think it's called an asterisk. I'm not very sure. If I come and change the background, let's say the color of the text. So you can see it has changed. So it has changed all the text inside my HTML document to brown. So what this asterisk means, once you put it, you can be able to change every element within your HTML file at once.
Benjamin, you've lost your sound.
Benjamin, we can't hear you.